Hello. I want you to think about that number for a moment. 1 in 3. Look around at your friends, your family, your neighbors. The statistics are stark, but what's even more frightening is that most people, perhaps even you, don't recognize the true warning signs of a heart attack when they appear. They're often fooled by myths, dangerous misconceptions that have been passed down for generations. These myths can, and do, cost lives. I'm Dr. Robert Clark. For over 30 years, I've been a physician specializing in the health and wellness of our senior community. I've sat in the exam room with thousands of patients, and I've stood at the bedside in the cardiac care unit. I've seen firsthand the devastating consequences of misinformation. I've also seen the incredible power of knowledge, the power to turn fear into action, and action into a longer, healthier life. That is why I am talking to you today. We are going to bust 5 of the most deadly myths about heart attacks. Understanding these truths is not just an interesting medical lesson, it could be the crucial piece of information that saves your life, or the life of someone you love dearly. So please, stay with me. Let's separate fact from fiction together. Myth number 1 is perhaps the most pervasive and damaging, especially for the women watching this. It's the idea that heart attacks are a man's problem. For decades, the classic image of a heart attack, the one we've all seen in movies and on television, is a man in his 50s, clutching his chest, falling to the ground. This image is so ingrained in our culture that it has created a deadly blind spot. The hard, undeniable fact is this: heart disease is the #1 killer of women in the United States. It claims more women's lives than all forms of cancer combined. 1 in 3 female deaths each year is from cardiovascular disease. You are not an exception. The good news is, understanding this fact is the first step toward protecting yourself. The danger of this myth is twofold. First, because women often believe they aren't at high risk, they ignore or downplay their symptoms. And second, their symptoms can be drastically different from the Hollywood heart attack we expect. Let me tell you about my patient, Margaret. She was a vibrant 68-year-old grandmother who was always on the go. One afternoon, while preparing dinner, she felt an unusual fatigue wash over her, accompanied by a strange ache in her jaw and some indigestion. She told her husband she must have overdone it in the garden and just needed to rest. She took an antacid and went to lie down. She thought, "This can't be a heart attack. I don't have any chest pain." She was wrong. Thankfully, her husband felt something wasn't right and called for an ambulance. Margaret had a massive blockage in one of her coronary arteries. She survived, but it was a very close call. Her story is a perfect example of why this myth is so lethal. She nearly dismissed her own heart attack as simple tiredness and an upset stomach. The reason for this difference often lies in our physiology. While men more commonly experience blockages in the main, large coronary arteries, women, especially after menopause, can develop disease in the smaller blood vessels of the heart. This is called microvascular disease, and it can produce more subtle, diffuse symptoms: jaw pain, shortness of breath, extreme fatigue, nausea, back or shoulder ache. These are the whispers of a heart attack in women, not the dramatic shouting we see in films. Have you ever felt profoundly tired and just chalked it up to a bad night's sleep? Have you ever had a nagging ache in your shoulder and just assumed you slept on it wrong? I urge you, especially the women watching, to reevaluate those moments. It's time we replace the outdated, masculine image of a heart attack with a more accurate and inclusive one. It's time to listen to our bodies, trust our intuition, and never, ever ignore symptoms simply because they don't fit a myth. This brings us directly to our second deadly myth, which is closely related to the first: the belief that a heart attack always manifests as sudden, crushing chest pain. This is the elephant on the chest feeling that we've all been taught to watch for. And while it's true that many heart attacks do present this way, relying on this single symptom as your only guidepost is like trying to navigate a ship in a storm with a broken compass. It's incredibly dangerous. The data from emergency rooms across the country tells a very different story. Up to 40% of heart attacks in seniors, particularly in women and individuals with diabetes, do not involve any significant chest pain at all. This is a critical point that I cannot stress enough. Your heart may be screaming for help, but the message can get scrambled. This phenomenon is known as atypical presentation, and it's a major reason why heart attacks are missed or diagnosed too late. Instead of chest pain, you might feel a profound and sudden shortness of breath, as if you've just run a marathon when you only walked to the kitchen. You might experience a sharp pain in your jaw, your neck, or between your shoulder blades. It could feel like a stubborn case of indigestion or nausea that just won't quit. Or it might be a wave of dizziness and a cold sweat that seems to come out of nowhere. These are not minor complaints. They are potential sirens from your heart. Let me tell you about another patient of mine, David. David was 72 and had been managing his type 2 diabetes for over 15 years. He came into the emergency room one evening insisting he had a terrible case of food poisoning. He was nauseous, pale, and sweating profusely. He kept telling the triage nurse, "There's no pain in my chest, Doc. None at all. It's my stomach." But the ER doctor was sharp. He knew that long-term diabetes can cause something called diabetic neuropathy, which is damage to the nerves throughout the body. This includes the nerves that send pain signals from the heart. In David's case, the nerve damage essentially muffled the classic chest pain signal. His body's alarm system was broken. The only signals that got through were the secondary ones: nausea and the stress response of sweating. An immediate EKG confirmed our fears. David was in the middle of a major heart attack. His story is a powerful lesson. Your chronic conditions can change the way your body speaks to you. For diabetics, especially, any sudden, unexplained symptom like nausea, shortness of breath, or fatigue should be considered a potential cardiac signal until proven otherwise. Think of your body's nervous system like the wiring in an old house. A signal starts in the heart, travels up the spinal cord to the brain. But along that path, it shares a junction box with nerves coming from the jaw, the left arm, the back, and the stomach. Sometimes the brain gets the wires crossed. It gets this intense distress signal and thinks it's coming from the jaw or the stomach. This is called referred pain, and it is why you can have a life-threatening problem in your chest but feel it in your teeth. So, I have to ask you, what have you been ignoring? That nagging ache in your shoulder? That recurring indigestion after you climb the stairs? I want you to make a new rule for yourself starting today. Any new, unusual, and persistent symptom that occurs anywhere above your navel is worth a conversation with your doctor. Don't wait for the elephant. Sometimes the warning is just a whisper. Now, let's talk about what happens after a heart attack. This is a time filled with fear and uncertainty, and it's where our third myth takes root. It's the belief that after a heart attack, your life as an active person is over. The myth says your heart is fragile now. You must rest. Avoid all exertion. Become a spectator in your own life. This idea is born from a deep, instinctual fear of triggering another event, and I understand it completely. It feels like the safest thing to do. But I am here to tell you that this belief, while well-intentioned, is not only outdated, it is actively harmful to your recovery. The modern reality of post-heart attack care is exactly the opposite. Medically supervised, gentle, and progressive exercise is not just recommended, it is a cornerstone of recovery. This is done through a program called cardiac rehabilitation. It's a prescription, just like your medications. A landmark clinical trial, the REHAB-HF study, specifically looked at frail seniors after a cardiac event. The results were astounding. The patients who participated in a dedicated physical rehabilitation program had significantly fewer hospitalizations, could walk farther, and reported a much higher quality of life than those who didn't. The rest, forever myth, was shattered by science. Movement is medicine. Let's talk about why. Your heart is a muscle. After it has been damaged by a heart attack, parts of that muscle are weakened. If you were to break your leg, you wouldn't keep it in a cast forever. You'd go to physical therapy to rebuild the atrophied muscles and restore function. Your heart is no different. Cardiac rehab works to carefully and safely recondition your heart muscle, making it stronger and more efficient. It improves circulation throughout your body, which helps the damaged areas of your heart to heal. It can even encourage your body to grow tiny new blood vessels that create natural bypasses around clogged arteries. Furthermore, exercise is one of the most powerful tools we have to control the very risk factors that led to the heart attack in the first place. It lowers blood pressure, helps regulate blood sugar, improves your cholesterol profile, and is critical for managing stress. I remember my patient, Frank, a 69-year-old who had spent his whole life being active. After his heart attack, he was paralyzed by fear. He was afraid to walk up the stairs, afraid to carry a bag of groceries. His world had shrunk to the four walls of his living room. He was a prisoner of this myth. We finally convinced him to try cardiac rehab. I'll never forget what he told me about his first session. He was terrified, but the nurse put him on a treadmill at a snail's pace for just 5 minutes, all while he was connected to an EKG monitor with a team of specialists watching his every heartbeat. He saw that he was safe, that 5 minutes became 10, then 20. Walking became a light jog. He started light resistance training. 6 months later, Frank was back to tending his beautiful rose garden, a passion he thought he'd lost forever. He hadn't just recovered his physical strength, he had reclaimed his life from fear. So I ask you, if you or a loved one has gone through a cardiac event, are you living like Frank before rehab or after? What part of your life have you surrendered to fear? Think of cardiac rehab as physical therapy for the most important muscle in your body. It is a safe, controlled environment designed to give you back your strength and, just as importantly, your confidence. The next time you see your doctor, I want you to be your own best advocate. Ask them directly, am I a candidate for cardiac rehabilitation? It is not a luxury, it is an essential part of your journey back to a full, active, and vibrant life. Let's move on to myth number 4, a particularly insidious one because it breeds inaction and a sense of hopelessness. It's the quiet belief that as you get older, a heart attack is simply inevitable. It's a line I've heard countless times in my practice. Doc, my father had a heart attack at 70, my uncle at 72. It's in my genes. It's just a matter of when, not if. This sense of genetic destiny makes people feel powerless, as if they are passengers on a train heading towards a foregone conclusion. But I am here to tell you that your genes are not your destiny. They are merely a risk factor, and in many cases, not even the most important one. It's never too late to rewrite your story. While it's true that you can't change your age or your family history, these are just 2 pieces of a much larger puzzle. The most influential factors in your heart health are the ones you have direct control over every single day: your diet, your activity level, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and whether or not you smoke. Think of it this way. Your genetics might load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. You have the power to keep the safety on. Let's look at the science in a simple way. Imagine the arteries that feed your heart are like brand new flexible garden hoses. The inside is perfectly smooth and water flows through effortlessly. Now, imagine what happens when you have uncontrolled high blood pressure. That's like cranking the water pressure way too high, day after day. It starts to wear down and damage the inner lining of that hose. What about high cholesterol? That's like pouring thick sludge into the water, which starts to stick to any rough patches. Smoking? That's like deliberately scratching and scarring the inside of the hose, making it even easier for that sludge to build up. Over decades, this combination of damage and buildup, which we call plaque, narrows the hose until one day it's completely blocked. That's a heart attack. A healthy lifestyle, even one started later in life, works to reverse this. It lowers the pressure, clears the sludge, and helps keep the lining of your arteries smooth and healthy, making it incredibly difficult for that plaque to get a foothold. I once had two brothers as patients, George and Henry. They were in their late 60s, and their family history was a carbon copy of the story I just told. Their father had passed away from a massive heart attack at age 65. George saw this as his fate. He continued to eat a diet heavy in red meat and fried foods, he smoked half a pack of cigarettes a day, and he'd wave off any advice with a sigh, saying, "What's the point?" Henry, on the other hand, viewed his father's death as a terrifying wake-up call. He immediately threw out his cigarettes, started taking a brisk 30-minute walk every single morning, and worked diligently with me to get his blood pressure and cholesterol under control with small diet changes and medication. Fast forward 8 years. George tragically suffered a severe heart attack at 67. Henry, now 75, is thriving. He plays golf twice a week and has more energy than men half his age. Same genes, different choices, dramatically different outcomes. So, what choice will you make? Do you see your family history as a prison sentence or as a powerful motivation? You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start small. Swap one soda a day for a glass of water. Take a 5-minute walk around the block. Choose the baked potato instead of the French fries. Each small positive choice is a vote for a longer, healthier future. You have far more power over your health than this myth would have you believe. It's time to start using it. This leads us to our fifth and final myth, and it's one that preys on a survivor's relief and desire for normalcy. It eases the dangerous assumption that if you survive a heart attack and undergo a successful procedure like getting a stent or bypass surgery, you are cured and out of danger. Patients often feel so much better afterward. The chest pain is gone, their energy returns, and it's incredibly tempting to believe the problem has been solved for good. They think the plumber came, fixed the one bad pipe, and now the house is as good as new. I'm here to tell you that this mindset, while completely understandable, is a life-threatening mistake. A heart attack is not a singular event like a broken bone that heals and is then forgotten. A heart attack is a symptom, a violent, acute symptom, of a chronic, lifelong disease. That disease is called coronary artery disease, and it affects every single blood vessel in your body. The stent that was placed or the bypass that was performed was an emergency repair on the single most critical blockage, the one that was about to cause catastrophic failure. It did not cure the underlying condition. In fact, the risk of having a second heart attack is highest within the first year after your first one. You are never more vulnerable than in the months following that initial event. Let's use that plumbing analogy. Imagine your circulatory system is the plumbing in a 70-year-old house. Over the decades, rust and scale have been building up in all the pipes. One day, the pipe under the kitchen sink gets completely clogged, causing a flood. You call an emergency plumber, and he does a fantastic job replacing that one section of pipe. The water flows perfectly in the kitchen again. But does that mean the pipes in the upstairs bathroom or the ones in the basement are suddenly brand new? Of course not. The same process of corrosion and buildup is still happening throughout the entire house. Your heart medications, the statin to control the sludge, the blood pressure medication to ease the strain, the blood thinner to prevent new clots, these are not temporary fixes. These are the essential maintenance plan for your entire system, designed to slow down the decay in all the other pipes. I will never forget my patient, Eleanor. She was a wonderfully stubborn 71-year-old who had a stent placed in her main coronary artery. Her recovery was textbook. Within weeks, she was back to her book club and walking her dog, feeling better than she had in years. But Eleanor hated taking pills. About 4 months after her procedure, feeling perfectly fine, she decided on her own that she didn't need her daily low-dose aspirin and her cholesterol medication anymore. "They're just chemicals," she told her daughter, "and I feel great without them." 6 weeks later, she was rushed back to the hospital with a second, far more damaging heart attack. A new clot had formed in another artery that was narrowed by the same disease process. It was a preventable tragedy. Eleanor survived, but with significantly more heart damage that left her with chronic shortness of breath and a much reduced quality of life. Her story is a heartbreaking illustration of this myth. Feeling good is not the same as being healthy. Your treatment plan after a heart attack is your lifeline. The follow-up appointments, the dietary changes, the cardiac rehab, and most critically the medications, are not optional. They are the tools that are actively preventing that second, often more deadly event. So, let me ask you, do you see your medications as a burden, or as your personal team of bodyguards working around the clock to protect you? Please, do not be like Eleanor. Your first heart attack was not the end of the story. It was a warning shot from your brain. It was your body's way of screaming that it's time for a permanent change in how you manage your health. So, let's quickly recap the 5 deadly myths we've busted today. First, the myth that heart attacks are a man's disease. The truth is, heart disease is the #1 killer of women, and their symptoms are often subtle and tragically ignored. Second, the myth that it's always crushing chest pain. The truth is, for many seniors, it can be shortness of breath, jaw pain, nausea, or profound fatigue, with no chest pain at all. Third, the myth that you must live a sedentary life after a heart attack. The truth is, medically supervised cardiac rehabilitation is one of the most critical steps to reclaiming your strength and your confidence. Fourth, the fatalistic myth that a heart attack is inevitable with age and genetics. The undeniable truth is that your daily lifestyle choices give you incredible power to defy your family history and protect your heart. And fifth, the myth that you are cured after a stent or surgery. The truth is that a heart attack is a warning sign of a chronic disease that requires lifelong management with medication and vigilance. Knowledge is power, but only when it is shared. The greatest tragedy in medicine is a life that is lost or diminished not by disease, but by a simple lack of information, by a myth. I want to ask you a question, and I'd be grateful if you'd answer in the comments below. Which of these 5 myths surprised you the most? Reading through your comments and experiences helps create a community where we can all learn from one another. And if this information has resonated with you, I ask you to please share this video. Share it with your spouse, your siblings, your friends at church, or your children who may be worried about you. Sending them this video isn't just clicking a button, it is an act of love. It's a way of arming the people you care about with knowledge that could genuinely save a life. If you found this discussion valuable, please take a moment to click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more evidence-based health information for our senior community. Finally, please remember, this video and its contents are for educational purposes only. They are not a substitute for direct professional medical advice from your own physician. Always consult your doctor or cardiologist for any and all decisions regarding your health. Thank you for your time and your attention. Stay informed, stay proactive, and be well. Now that we have the facts, the most important thing we can do is share them. This is where you come in. I'd like you to take a moment and think, which of these 5 myths truly surprised you the most? Was there one that you, yourself, believed until today? Please take a second to share your thoughts in the comments section below. When you share your experience, you let others know they are not alone, and it creates a powerful community of learning and support right here. Beyond that, I have a personal request. Please consider sharing this video with at least one other person. The tragic reality is that misinformation is contagious, but so is the truth. By sending this to a family member, a neighbor, or a friend, you are not just sharing a video, you are sharing a shield. You are giving someone you care about the power to recognize a life-threatening event. It is a simple act that could have a profound impact. If you have found this information to be valuable, I would be so grateful if you would click the like button to help this video reach more people who need to see it. And, of course, please subscribe to the channel for more evidence-based information designed to help you live a healthier, more vibrant life. Finally, a crucial reminder. This discussion is for educational purposes and should not be taken as personal medical advice. Your health situation is unique. Please always consult with your own trusted physician or cardiologist to make any and all decisions regarding your care plan. They are your most important partner on this journey. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and more importantly, for investing this time in your own health and in the well-being of those you love. Remember, the journey to a healthy heart isn't about grand, sweeping gestures. It's about the small, informed decisions we make every single day. On your screen now, you will see a link to our video on the crucial steps to take if you have a heart attack while you are alone. It is essential viewing. You will also find our complete playlist on senior heart health, filled with more practical advice. For further reading, please check the description box below for a direct link to the American Heart Association's excellent resources. Thank you again. Stay informed, stay proactive, and be well.